Today I thought I'd make a video about how to make SVG files, which are the types of files that are used in programs like Cricut Design Space. A lot of people make a lot of money selling these on Etsy and Facebook and designing things, especially for clients. And if you are comfortable with Adobe Illustrator and the way to make these files, it can be very helpful and you can start selling these to businesses or clients that you find. I'm going to show you a couple of different ways that I make SVG files, including using the image trace function. You will see this a lot online when you're looking through the Facebook groups. People have put up images, cartoons, logos, shirts, everything that they have found where they want an image traced, but the online image traces don't work as well as Adobe Illustrator. So this is a great tool to be able to use to either create your own SVGs or to do it for clients and make some money. So I'm going to start with showing you how to do the text, and we'll end up with the image tracing at the end. So the first one is this blue and red decal that could be used for a vacation shirt or maybe at the back of a car sticker. I'm going to show you how to do the stars separately to the on vacation underneath the name, because when you put this into Cricut Design Space, you want it to be able to be moved around a little bit to save yourself some vinyl, or whoever's buying it to save vinyl. If somebody asks you to create something like this where they want the stars and like all of the red to stick together, that's another way you can do it as well. So the first one is I've typed out the word Smiths, and you can see here that this is actually three different parts. So you've got the S, then sort of the cursive writing, and then you've got the dot of the I as well. When I go to my layers, you can see that the Smiths, on vacation, and welcome is all just text. So I need this to be compound paths. That's our end goal. First thing I'm going to do is right click on the text and go create outlines. And you'll see that there are some parts that are overlapping. So what I need to do is go to Pathfinder and unite this together. And all of those overlaps will go away. So I've done that to the blue. Now let's go back to the red, right click, create outlines. And I'm going to unite that again. And if I go back to my layers now, you can see that Smith and the red is now in a group. Next step here is I'm going to, on my keyboard, go Control 8. And it's going to turn that into a compound path. Same with the Smiths. Click on Smiths, Control 8 on my keyboard, and it's going to come up with a compound path. Now with my stars, they're currently images or they're shapes. They need to be compound paths as well. So click on the first one, Control 8. Click on the second one, Control 8. So I'm going to turn these into a group. So I'm just going to click and drag over those four sections and go Object, Group. And we will deal with that in a second to turn that into an SVG. Now let's do welcome. Now welcome is exactly the same. Super simple. It might be used for like a wedding invitation or even like a mirror at a wedding. So same thing again. I'm going to right click and go Create Outlines. And you can see that there's a few little overlapping bits. So back to my Pathfinder, Unite. And then in my layers, you don't have to have layers selected, but you can see that because it was just one solid line, it's now become a compound path on its own. Now, if you don't have these windows here, you just go up here to Window and you can see your Layers panel, and you can also see your Pathfinder panel up here. So anything that I have down the side here, you can find in the window panel. So those two are now done. The last technique I'm going to show you is how to trace this image that I've asked ChatGPT to draw for me. The most important thing about this image is that you can see that it's really simple. So it's only got three colors, white, yellow, and green. There's no shading, there's no detail. It's very, very simple, and that's what it needs to be in order to turn it into an SVG file. So what we do first, we go to Window, Image Trace. Okay, so I'm going to click on my image. I'm going to change my preset to 3 colors and OK. Okay, once it's finished tracing, I'm going to click over here to expand. And then Object, Ungroup All. So this is now, if I look at my layers, you can see now that I have all of these paths, these shapes, but they all need to be compound paths for this to work. Let's just hide the two that I made earlier. So we're just dealing with this. First one I'm going to do is delete the white border around the outside. Okay, so click on the white around the outside, delete that, we don't need it. Now, one thing that I noticed before is this circle is cut out of the yellow behind it, right? If you want to make it so that the center of the flower is all one big flower rather than having the middle cut out of it, we can actually merge these together to make the flower, and then the little circle will sit on top, which might look better when we go into Cricut Design Space. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that center part of that flower. I'm going to go edit, copy, edit, paste in back. And you'll now see over in my layers panel that I have an ellipse under the ellipse. I'm going to hold shift down on my keyboard and select that with the flower. And in my Pathfinder, I'm going to merge those together. Properties, where are we? So now I've just got this flower, and I'm just going to change that back to like a yellow color, just so that we can see the differences. So if I now hid that circle on top of it, the ellipse on top, you can see that I've now got one solid flower instead of having a middle cut out of it. So I've got this path, that's the yellow flower, but it needs to be a compound path. So to do that, either Control-8 on your keyboard or go to Object, go down to Compound Path and go Make. So my flower is now a compound path. The ellipse in the middle of the flower is still a shape. So I'm going to Control-8 that to turn that into a compound path. And I'm going to click on the green, Control-8 to turn that into a compound path. You'll see here that there's one more little path that sort of sits at the top, which is apparently white. We can't see it. So I'm just going to delete that. And then I've got my flower. The last thing I'm going to do is select all of these pieces and go Object Group, because that'll make it easier once I get into Cricut Design Space. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn these three into SVG files so that I can use them in Cricut Design Space. With the two hidden that you don't want, because I don't want them all on one file, I'm going to go to File, Export, Export As, and I'm going to call this Daisy 1 because I'll show you what this one looks like, which is the one I did before without that middle circle welded into the back. I'm going to hide my daisy. Oh, sorry. With your SVG options, don't change any of those, just click OK. I'm going to hide my daisy and turn back on this first one that we did. Make sure again that everything's compound path, which it is. File, Export As, SVG, and I'm going to call this Smith's on Vacation. And I'm going to click OK to that. Hide that one, turn on the last one, File, Export As, Welcome, Export, and not change any of those settings. Okay, let's have a look at what these look like in Cricut Design Space. Okay, so I'm going to go Upload Image, and I'm going to, you can only do one at a time. So let's start with Smith's on Vacation. Continue, Upload. Okay, so if you click on this little arrow down to the right, you can see how it's grouped. But as an SVG file, that looks pretty good. There's no problems with it. It all sort of came across right. The colors are there. That looks great. Let's try the next ones. Now, because this wasn't in a group and it was just one file, it doesn't need to be ungrouped or it's not grouped in any sort of way. You can see that all of the overlaps fit nicely together and it's just one continuous word, which is great, which means someone can then just print this and cut this from Cricut Design Space. Okay, so this here on the right-hand side is the original that I did before this video, and here is the one that we did together. If you ungroup them, you can see, let's start with the one that we did together. You can see down here that the daisy is all one solid entity. So if I turn off that circle at the front, you can see that it's still a solid daisy. Whereas the one that I did, if you turn off that middle section, it's got a cutout. So anytime you're making SVG files, you can make a decision as to whether or not you want to cut the middle out or whether you want to weld it together. If you use Cricut on a regular basis, you'll start to get an idea of what you think is going to be easier for you, which is an example of why I didn't weld those stars in with the on vacation. But it's up to you how you do it. It's also up to your clients. If you decide to sell this to clients, they will give you ideas of what they want it to look like, and you can work with them as well. I hope this has given you a good idea of what you can do with creating SVG files in Adobe Illustrator. If you have any questions, please let me know. And if there is a particular video that you would like made to do with Cricut, Adobe Illustrator, Photoshop, Fresco, AI, anything like that, just let me know.